University is more than just academics. We asked current students to share what life is like at Waterloo. What was the biggest difference between high school and university?
So the biggest difference for me was just the community size in university. The campus was a lot bigger and my classes were a lot bigger. But the way that I was able to overcome that was just by being social and like making conversation by people that I sat beside, or like when I went to like extracurricular activities, I talked to people and then you start making friends. So like although there's a lot of people, you start to see familiar faces and it kind of helps.
I think the biggest difference between high school and university for myself was the increase in independence. So since I'm from British Columbia, my parents were pretty far away from me. I didn't even get to go home on weekends. And so there's a lot of, I guess, adult stuff that I had to worry about on my own, such as laundry, keeping up with all my assignments. Nobody's really looking over my shoulder for that. But to overcome this challenge, I really found it helpful to have a close group of friends that I saw not just in class, but outside of class too. And we all kept each other accountable.
The biggest difference between high school and university that I found was just your living situation, living away from home, living on your own. And there was a kind of a break in high school where you would be at school with all your friends and then you would go home and be with your family. And in university, you're always with your friends and you're kind of always surrounded by that school mentality. So I think that was the biggest difference that I found.
So the biggest difference that I found between high school and university was the amount of time that I had to spend outside of class doing work. So for me, lectures helped me with getting an explanation about a topic, but doing work outside of class really helped me synthesize that information and really help it stick. And even though I had to do more work outside of class, you could always spend that time studying with friends, so it does make doing more work a little bit easier.
What's the biggest misconception about Waterloo?
So the biggest misconception about Waterloo to me is just that a lot of people tend to say that Waterloo is like this big unfriendly place without like student life and stuff like that. And I don't think that that's the case at all. We have so many clubs and like so many extracurricular activities that you can get involved with. I think that it's just like your Waterloo experience is what you make it. So if you want to get involved and you want to be part of like a community, you have to put yourself out there and get involved in things that you're interested in.
I would say that the biggest misconception about Waterloo is that there's like it's all work and no play. So most people look at it that Waterloo is full of, I guess, people that are always studying, always working, and very competitive. But I would say that that hasn't been my experience at all.
So I think one of the biggest misconceptions about Waterloo is that it's pretty competitive. This sort of stems from the fact that Waterloo is pretty competitive to get into from high school. So people might think that, oh, it's really competitive once you're in to get through, but that's not really the case. Since a lot of our programs are direct entry, and within engineering, we have a cohort system specifically, you're staying with the same classmates from day one until you graduate. And so that means you don't really have to academically compete to get into a specific major or anything. You're already in the same program and everything's doing the same thing as you. And so people are generally more friendly and willing to help out.
Biggest misconception would be that everybody is super competitive because of co-op or academics. I'd say that's not the truth at all. I haven't met a single person who thought that they were superior or overconfident. I think because everybody's in the same boat and going through the same thing, it's really easy to relate to each other.
So the biggest misconception about Waterloo is that there is nothing fun to do here in Waterloo. I think that there really isn't a shortage of fun things to do here if you go out and look for them. So, for example, I've spent a lot of time exploring Waterloo. I visited the animal farm a lot at Waterloo Park. I was able to join intramural teams. I've even spent my time doing karaoke with a bunch of my other friends at one of our end-of-term events. So there really is a lot of fun things to do if you go ahead and put yourself out there.
What's your favorite Waterloo memory and why?
My favorite Waterloo memory is definitely the math and engineering semi-formal. So back in the fall, Math Society and Engineering Society actually ran a semi-formal together. I had a lot of fun with my friends and we danced the whole entire night. There was a student DJ and also one of my CS profs was a DJ as well. So it was pretty cool to see them, see my CS prof, especially like in a different environment that's not in a lecture. So it was actually a lot of fun.
So my favorite memory at Waterloo was the football game, like during orientation my first year. It was like after classes had already begun, and that week was kind of just like a little bit scary just because you're kind of just adapting to everything. But then like I went to the game with a couple of my friends from high school and people that I had met, and like I just got to experience Waterloo in a different environment and in a different setting. It made me feel more a part of a community rather than like being so scared in such a big classroom. Like it just brought me in, I think.
So I really had a blast in first year, and that really shaped my perspective about campus and also some of the traditions that the school has and how welcoming the community is. I found this to be a really important aspect in helping new students become comfortable with university life, since I've become an orientation leader, and help students start that process of transitioning onto campus.
My favorite memory at Waterloo was during my 4A term. I was taking a course called Rec 433. It's an ecotourism and communities course, and it's a field studies course. And we actually went out for a week out in Algonquin Park, and we're doing some research there. Got to experience the amazing different tourism attractions of Algonquin Park. Got to learn about the park. Got to learn about the stories of the park, and we got to go on a what we call backcountry camping, which is just like portaging and canoeing through this little trails for a couple of days, and it was just a really great experience. It was a really small group of people. We got super close, and it was definitely an unforgettable experience.
My favorite Waterloo memory was definitely being an orientation leader for the last couple of years. The best way that I can describe orientation week is just lots of positive energy, lots of friendly competition, a lot of really cheesy science puns. But overall, it's just a lot of fun to be able to form those kinds of bonds with your team and also with your first years. And it really gives us upper year students the opportunity to make people feel more welcome in what might be a scary transition. And also just gives us time to be fun and be silly before school starts.
What was the hardest thing about first year and why?
The amount of hours you have to put into assignments is a lot more. And I've actually found it a lot easier when I would work with classmates and study together. So for example, for weekly computer science assignments, there were some questions that we were allowed to collaborate on. So we would stay in the computer lab until midnight, and we would bounce ideas off each other and come up with solutions. So it really eased the stress of the difficulty and the workload.
The hardest part of first year specifically is time management. We have way more time to ourselves rather than being in class. So you do have to focus on prioritizing getting work done, but you also want to meet all your new friends, go to events and stuff like that. So trying to find time to make schedules and plan out when things are due kind of made it easier for me to have a great balance of both student life and studies.
So the hardest thing about first year for me was just making sure that to take the time every week and just have time for myself, do things that I like to enjoy. Which just goes back to having like a really good work-life balance, and just making sure that I was having time to go to the gym or hang out with friends and do some things that reset myself, so that when I would go do work and I would go to class, that I was fully prepared and 100% focused.
So one of the hardest things I found about first year, especially in engineering, is balancing the co-op job applications and interview process with academics. So in Waterloo Engineering, co-op job applications start in first year, and so students will be applying for jobs potentially as early as September when they come to school. I found this especially challenging just because the application process for co-op is quite different than anything I've done before, such as academics. And so it took a little bit of flexibility to incorporate this into my schedule. But because of this challenge, I really gained a lot of strong time management skills to be able to balance these two very different responsibilities for university.
What's your favorite thing to do when you're not in class?
Probably just being outside. I really like going to Waterloo Park and seeing like the llamas and the like farm animals they have there.
So I would say my favorite thing to do outside of class is definitely hanging out with all my friends and kind of exploring uptown Waterloo, especially in first year, just trying to get my surroundings and figure out all the places that you can explore in Waterloo.
My favorite thing to do outside of class is cooking food and baking treats with my friends.
My favorite thing to do outside of class is to get a quick bite and some coffee at the Science Coffee and Donut Shop and catch up with my friends over TV shows.
Describe your Waterloo experience in one word.
Inclusive.
Influential.
Diverse.
Opportunity.
Unpredictable.
Friendship.
I chose inclusive because everybody is super inclusive. So when you're meeting new people, everybody is everybody. There's such a big diversity of people, and everybody accepts unique traits, and everybody has different personalities. So that's definitely the one word I would use to describe my Waterloo experience.
I would say influential just because I feel like I'm surrounded by a lot of people who are striving to be the best people that they can be, or like even professors and stuff. Like they want to see you succeed. So being surrounded in that environment helps me to like push myself to achieve my goals and where I want to go.
I would say my experience at Waterloo has been diverse because there have been a lot of different opportunities for things for me to try out and participate in, especially through co-op. In engineering, you have up to 6 different co-op jobs you can try. And so I've really tried to do something different in each one of my co-op terms.
I chose opportunity because I find that I'm meeting so many people through co-op, any networking events, and then overall just my classmates. Everybody's very innovative and always trying to help each other succeed. So I feel once I do leave Waterloo that I'll have endless opportunities to whatever I want.
Unpredictable is a word I use to describe just because you don't necessarily know how your degree is going to plan out. If you're in co-op, you don't necessarily know what kind of co-op jobs you have. And so just being okay with the unpredictability, being okay with being open-minded to different opportunities, and pursuing different things you didn't think that would kind of happen. And certain opportunities might pop up to you in times you don't expect, and being open to saying yes, or making those kind of hard choices about how your career or your school term unfolds is good. And being open-minded is part of that, and being unpredictable is part of that.
The word I would use to describe my experience would be friendship. So coming into university, I didn't really know anyone in the beginning, and there weren't a lot of people from my high school. So I was really nervous that I wouldn't be able to make friends because I was so shy. But throughout the years, I've gotten to form so many meaningful relationships with people in my faculty and people outside of my faculty, and they've become my support system through my undergrad and made this whole experience really fun.
What advice would you give to new students in 6 words?
Have fun and enjoy university life.
Stay positive, try your best, and be patient.
Don't be afraid to try new things.
Be ready to push yourself further.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Step outside of your comfort zone.
See you on
campus.
Have student life questions? Send them to us on Instagram at U of Waterloo. Thanks for watching.